nerves that are going around like crazy people, because this is the time of afternoon when that happens.
Excellent. Thanks, Eric. Okay, so if you want to go to the next slide, Nikki. So, we often find ourselves at the beginning of presentations trying to give an overview of what is public health. But given the state of the world, I have no doubt that many more of you are really familiar with what that is about. But in short, right? I mean, public health researchers, practitioners, and educators work with communities and populations to identify causes of disease and injury and to implement large-scale solutions. And you're obviously seeing that in play with all that's going on with COVID-19 at the moment. But what you see here is a lot of different topics and areas of study that touch on public health. And hopefully you see some things that are interesting to you. Maybe you see many things that are interesting to you, which is true for a lot of our students. But also what I think is interesting about public health is often that there are things maybe on here that you haven't really thought much about, or that you're not sure are of great interest, and that I think the experience of being in this program allow you to discover that maybe you have additional passions that you're not as familiar with. So hopefully that will be the case. So who are we as an institution? So we are nearly 100 years old. We have about 1,500 students at our institution. We have 6 departments, and we'll talk more about those. You see that a lot of our students have got some kind of experience working, that students come from around the world and are representative of lots of different perspectives and viewpoints. And we are located at the Medical Center campus at Columbia University. So we're up on 168th Street and Fort Washington. And what are the things that are, the key things that we do? So, we perform the scientific research, we train the next generation of public health leaders, we translate science for impact. So, again, we're providing that evidence that really about the causes and the solutions to threats to the public health. We really provide the opportunity for prevention and mitigation by ensuring that our students have all the necessary skills to go out in the world and address those issues. And as an institution, we really have global impact. So all the darkly shaded parts of the world are places where we actively have faculty doing research, or where we are engaged in service activities. So you see that it is truly most everywhere. So those kinds of things are like, our Center for Infection and Immunity, which has really been in the news lately, but, was involved in creating the first diagnostic platform that could screen for all known human pathogen bacteria. So, this means, right, that they can really revolutionize the way that we diagnose folks for a number of diseases, things like Lyme disease and other tick-borne diseases and things along those lines. And that's the kind of work that you see happening around the world. So we have got 6 departments and throughout the school. And so you see them listed here. And so if you choose to come and study with us, you will be making a decision to select one of these departments for your study. In the early part of your degree, you're engaged in our core curriculum, and we'll get to that in a moment. But what you'll want to spend a little time researching now is which of these areas of study is going to be the best fit for you. So again, you're going to get a broad-based approach to public health. So it won't be that you're strictly studying in this particular area, and you'll be with a cohort of students from all different departments, so that you'll get kind of the vantage points and lens that all of those different folks provide. But then as you move on in your degree to the year after you're done with your degree at Barnard, and when you're fully matriculated at Columbia, then you'll be really in the coursework of your academic department. So, so biostatistics is kind of about harnessing big data. EHS is really focused on exposures, climate change. We had the first climate and health program in the country, and the first PhD graduate in that area. So that's someplace where we're really influential. Epidemiology is sort of that who, where, why of disease and health-related states. Health policy and management is much what it sounds like, and is really about the creation of better health systems. Population and family health focuses on the needs and human rights, health needs and human rights, sexual and reproductive health, forced migration, and a number of other issues that are impacting children and families and their health. And sociomedical sciences really looks at the methodological approaches integral to the social determinants of health. So things like anthropology and sociology and psychology, history, ethics all play into that, and to thinking about how to address those social determinants of health. So poverty, stigma, non-communicable diseases, et cetera. So what will your options be within that once you've selected one of those programs? So here's what it looks like for you to begin your study with us. So the top track is for students who have to do some significant work still in terms of your research seminar. And so in that case, you will take 10.5 credits of our core curriculum, which is the light blue there, in the fall semester of your senior year. And you'll also still be engaged in some of your seminar coursework as well as research. Then in the second semester of your senior year, you're focused on your work at Barnard and completing that work. Then you have the option to either utilize the summer between your senior year and your full-time graduate study year to do a practica, or to wait until the summer at the end of your study. And some of that is determined by which department you're selecting. So there are going to be departments where you're going to have to do it on the back end, like for instance, epidemiology. And there are other departments where you have the flexibility to choose which of those you prefer. And it really is much about you know, how you feel about the coursework you've taken so far, how vested you feel into the practices and implementations of public health, and how ready you feel therefore to engage in that work. The field practice is part of our graduate degree requirements, and so everyone does it. So it's just a matter of when you'll do that. Then when you come to us in the year after you graduate from Barnard, that's kind of that rainbow type semester that you're looking at. So you're finishing up whichever parts of the core parts is our leadership and our integration in science, which we'll talk about a little more in a moment to give a sense of what they're about, and then finish up entirely in the department in that last semester. So which is
Hey, Claire, I think you were breaking up. Can you?
Yes.
Yes. Can you go back to track B and just go back to that real quick?
Okay. Seems like it is still the case. Try this for a minute and see if it makes it any better. Then I can try some other things as well. Okay, so basically, right, the crux of it is that the track A is for students who have more coursework that they still need to complete at Barnard in the fall semester of your senior year. Track B is for students who still have some coursework that's required, and probably part of a research seminar coursework as well. And then there is also a third track, a track C, which is just a little below. If you have the ability to move down there, it'd be perfect. So for students who don't need to be taking any coursework necessarily in the fall semester of their senior year at Barnard, you could, but don't need to. There's an option to take 15 to 16 and a half credits with us, which would mean basically our whole core curriculum. So the difference you're seeing here is that when you look at the semester 3 fall, you don't see any of the light blue, right? You've completed that part in the upfront, and you're not doing it therefore in your full-time year with us. So hopefully that's clear. And if there are questions that we haven't gotten to there, then or things that you couldn't hear, I'll be happy to address questions as we move along. I'm going to turn off my video and see if that helps with the quality of the audio as well. Okay, so, and for students who choose, if for some reason you decide to apply to our full-time 2-year program instead of to the 4+1, then the big change there is that in addition to the orange coursework that you see throughout, which is the discipline, that you also add on to that a certificate. So that's an opportunity to either specialize more in what you're doing in your department. So for instance, you could be an environmental health student and take a climate and health certificate, or you could be a student in epidemiology taking sexual reproductive health as a certificate. And there's 23 certificates to choose from. So a lot of opportunity to really personalize your curriculum. Just looking quickly. Okay, great. So our core curriculum is really the one of the many parts of our education that is very special and unique to our institution, and I think make it a wonderful place to study. And so what you're looking at here is the 6 studios and the 16 modules that make up our core curriculum. And so this is, you would be doing some or all of this in the fall semester of your senior year, depending on, again, how many credits are necessary in your degree at Barnard at any, in your particular case. And what's interesting about this is that it's not organized the way a typical undergraduate course would be organized, where you take the same class every, Tuesday and Thursday from 9 to 11. Instead, it sort of builds upon itself. So some of these courses are only going to be a few weeks in the beginning of the term. Some of them don't start until you're halfway through the semester. They are taught by faculty across different departments who are bringing their different perspectives to the educational outcomes that each studio is looking to impart. So it's very interdisciplinary, and that to us is a really important thing, because public health is practiced in a way that's very interdisciplinary. So what you might see if you were to look at other institutions is that there's many more who choose to teach introduction to epidemiology, right, rather than including some of that in research methods, right, and including some of that in determinants of health, right, that kind of thing. The way that, so for us, we've really tried to put it together thinking about how do you sort of apply this thinking rather than how do you segment it by and so it's a very unique way of approaching it. It's complicated a little bit, right? It means you're not going to have exactly the same schedule the semester, that you're not going to have the same faculty member teaching you in even any one of these individual colored blocks for the whole term. But that's also, I think, what makes it really special. And I'd be really happy to have our current students share their take on what their experience in the core was like this past fall. So that's what you'd be doing in the fall of your senior year. And this picture is the same thing. It just gives you a sense here a little bit of the length of these different studios, so that you get the idea that, right, something like research methods and applications runs almost the whole semester, whereas, you know, foundations of public health is an early part of the semester. You know, global and developmental perspectives is closer to the end, right? So, so these different things layer upon one another. Okay, we can move on. Then, as we previously discussed, you pick a department, and so then you'll have disciplinary coursework in your department, and that will come in the year after your graduation from Barnard. And this just gives you a sense of what some of those kinds of courses are, to give you a little flavor for the way that different departments then start to look into you know, or what kind of curriculum is involved in the public health study once you're in the department level, right? So, so I'd encourage you again to, you know, to take a look at our site to really do a little exploration these different departments. Again, our students who are with us today are in a couple of these different departments now, so they can give you a little bit of insight. And we're happy to help set up opportunities for you to communicate with our academic directors in the different departments or current students to get a little bit more information about what, you know, what each different department is focused on, and where you might best match your interests. So this just gives you a little more information about the practicum, and I talked a bit about that in terms of the timeline of when it occurs, right? But it really is an opportunity for us to have students apply the knowledge that they have learned in the classroom to real world applications. There is the opportunity to do practica around the world. Lots of students do them in New York City, working with New York Presbyterian, working with the New York City Department of Health, working with a number of you know, small community type organizations throughout the city, working with our own faculty, but they also occur all around the world. And so, you know, you really have the opportunity again to have this be tailored very directly to your interests, and to making sure that you feel that you have the right kind of experience and perspective to really put your degree to work once you're done with our study. Also, just to mention that there is a great opportunity to be engaged in our student community, and this begins for you once you are a 4+1 student. So while you're still in your senior year at Barnard, you also are considered a student of ours as well, and you have the opportunity to begin engaging in our student clubs and organizations. You see we have 24 of them at our particular school. There are also some that are cross campus at the University Medical Center campus on which we're located. And they really engage in a diverse set of activities that give students an opportunity to build a strong network of colleagues with whom they stay connected and work closely after they graduate, and also to have some fun and get a chance to help, you know, impact our community and our city. So, so there's a lot of great opportunities to get involved there. We do have on-campus housing. You will remain in Barnard in your senior year, but in the year thereafter, if you're interested in moving into on-campus housing, that is available at the medical center. And it's everything from, you know, dorm type housing to apartment living, and there's variation in price depending on what you choose there. It's all just within a block or two of where we're located, so very convenient. So if that's the kind of thing that interests you, that'll be a possibility once you get to your full-time year with us. And just to give you a sense of, you know, where do folks end up who complete a degree in public health at Columbia. So this is our 2017 data actually, but it looks almost exactly the same from the last 2 years as well. That, you know, about 6 months after graduation, only 2% of our students are still seeking employment opportunities, and all the rest are studying or working, or have for some reason chosen not to be seeking at that moment. And, you know, we only count in this people who are doing actual public health work. So, so an incredible placement rate, and gives you a sense also of the sectors in which our students are working. So hospitals and healthcare, obviously a huge one, as is university settings, but government, consulting, other technology and marketing is actually very large as well, as is nonprofits and NGOs. So a pretty diverse set of things. And again, I think, you know, it's pretty obvious, I think, for some folks to say, oh, of course, you know, hospital and healthcare, or yes, obviously the Department of Health or the CDC or these kinds of places are someplace that you might end up. But, you know, we also have students going to places like, you know, a year ago, we had a student who went to Fitbit, right, which at the time was very much considered really a technology company. But when you think about it, right, all the data that they have is really about influencing public health. So, so there's a wide variety of opportunities. You can go forward, Nikki. And this is just an example of the kind of employers who have been on campus over the course of the last year. We had a job fair scheduled on March 27th, and by March 27th, on-campus activities were not something that we could do. We switched with incredible speed and agility to an online forum that over 70 employers attended. And we actually got phenomenal feedback from employers about what the experience was like for them, and got recognized in a national organization for the fact that we're able to pull this off, because lots of other institutions had to cancel theirs given the social distancing and other requirements that were happening at that time. And I mention that because I just think it's indicative of the kind of support we get from our career services office, and they provide lifetime career support. So not just to students as they're graduating, but throughout the rest of their careers, when folks have questions or want to change you know, the way in which they're engaged in public health work, or need to negotiate from a, you know, a new salary, right? They are there to support that. And so that's also pretty unique and a really nice part about being in our community. For those of you who have a little time left, there are also some opportunities to engage in some undergraduate summer opportunities in advance of the 4+1. And so, so I encourage you just to take a look at those if you will still have another summer in 2021 before you'd be starting the 4+1, then these are great opportunities to get additional experience. So if all of this interests you, what do you do next? So, so in order to be eligible for the program, students must be full-time enrolled at Barnard, must be a junior when you're applying to us, with a minimum GPA of a 3.5 at Barnard, and be able to demonstrate an interest in public health. So, you know, some activity that you have undertaken in your life that shows that you understand what this kind of study would be about and why you are interested in engaging. Students who are interested in biostatistics do need also to have 2 semesters of calculus, at least one completed at the time of application and one underway. So that's one additional requirement there. You can move to the next. So what are the application components? So we have a special application that we utilize for students applying to this program. So students who apply to us as regular degree students apply through something called SOFIS, which is the Common Application for Schools of Public Health. You will use a special application specifically for this program. You'll provide academic transcripts, you'll provide a resume or CV, a personal statement that really talks to us about why this interests you, right? It is not for every student that you do an accelerated dual degree program. And so we really want to understand, right, what connects you to this, you know, how does it align with your goals and interests? Why is this something that's an appropriate fit for you? We are looking to hear in that part of the process. You're also going to complete a form that shows how you will complete your Barnard coursework on time, and then we'll have letters of recommendation plus a letter of support from a faculty member who's willing to kind of sponsor you. And I want to ask Nikki if she just wants to chime in a little bit on how Barnard defines that.
Thank you. So yeah, so I actually just had a question from a student. This is not the same as when you're looking for a research mentor. This is an individual that you will be able to, it can be your thesis advisor, it can be an advisor that is working with you, essentially that will assist as decisions are made into that 5th year on your courses, getting curricular support, but this does not have to be akin to a research mentor, okay?
Excellent. Thank you. And we still have one more. Yeah. So, so our typical timeline, right, is that applications are due in December. And then in late January, there is an applicant interview phase at Barnard, and then a review of your application by Columbia. So it's a 2-part process, right? You're first going to submit this application and your Barnard faculty are going to review it and say, is this a student who we see can complete their degree at Barnard, still participate in this program, and seems well aligned with this opportunity? If they say yes, then they forward that along to us, and then our Columbia admissions committee takes a look at your application, and we we'll be then back in touch with you by early March so that you have an opportunity to think about what that for preparing yourself for the rest of the year and getting ready to come join us in the fall of your senior year. So how does this also function sort of administratively? So some of the credits that you take in that 4th year and your year count toward both your Barnard degree and all the credits that you take in the 5 and in the 7.
It's gonna be dinner time too, okay?
In terms of tuition, in your senior year, you're paying Barnard, and you maintain your Barnard financial aid package, and again, your Barnard housing if you are choosing to live there, right? That all goes through Barnard. In the year 5, then you become a Columbia Mailman student, and you pay that year's tuition to us. It is tuition rate, and you are able to apply for our financial aid and at the time that you're entering into that year 5. And as I said earlier, housing you maintain at Barnard in your senior year and in your 5th year. If you're interested in utilizing university housing, then you can apply to the Mailman housing. And hear that the audio has gone in and out a little bit again. So, so I think that's it in terms of slides. So maybe there are some questions that folks would like to ask or get some clarity on, or just things that you couldn't quite hear that you want to make sure that we can comment on a little more. But first, maybe I will just ask our current students, Miranda and Janae, if they would each introduce themselves, say a little bit about which department you selected, why you decided that you were interested in this program, and maybe just a little bit about how your experience has gone so far, and then we'll open it up to questions.
I can start. So hello, everyone. My name is Janae. I'm in the Department of Socio-Medical Sciences, which focuses on social determinants of health. And my initial interest in the program was actually through a class that I took. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Professor Colgrove's Social History of American Public Health. I know that's a really popular class. And he had really sparked my interest in public health because of his interest in history, and I'm a history major at Barnard. So it had really opened my eyes to how health and science, which I'm also interested in, can be connected to history. And in terms of my experience so far, I honestly have nothing but good things to say. I'm actually taking a course this semester again with Professor Colgrove, which has been fantastic. And I think Mailman and my professors in particular have done a really good job adjusting to what's been happening in online classes. And we really do get an incredible amount of support here.
Hi everyone, I'm Miranda, and currently I'm a urban studies major with a concentration in public health. So I knew from the beginning that I was interested in pursuing more kind of down the academic road in public health. So I've always kind of been interested in an MPH, especially through the concentration in public health under the urban studies department. You take a lot of courses taught by Mailman professors. So I had already, like Janae, taken Social History of American Public Health and Introductions to Public Health and several other courses. And I loved those classes and I loved the professors. So I knew right away I wanted to do the MPH program, and especially the 4+1 program when it opened up. I'm in the Department of Population and Family Health, which is a little bit more kind of ground work, kind of learning how to run a program and do surveys and research on the ground. So I'm interested in adolescent health, and that department best fit my interests. And like Janae, the program has been absolutely amazing. I've loved every part of the core and the support we've received both from Barnard and the Mailman faculty.
And I just want to add a couple of things, and then we will open up for questions, and we see some questions coming in, and so thankful for Eric and Claire going in and answering those questions. But we want to allow for, if you have questions of Janae or Miranda, but just wanted to outline a couple of things. For those students who have curricular questions and you're concerned and very specific to yourself, you may want to, it is always helpful to have a one-to-one advising appointment with one of the Barnard faculty leads for this pathway. And those individuals are Rebecca Young, Brian Malieu, and Leslie Sharp. They can actually meet with you one-on-one even during this time period. And if you want to pull your course audit, so I see some questions about specific to your personal course courses of what you have. You can pull course audits to even just preliminary look to see what track might be of use to you based on the number of credits that you have. That's a great conversation to have, just to have an idea as to what you might be looking at. And then Beyond Barnard can certainly assist when it comes time to actually submit your application and you're thinking about your resume or your personal statement and needing support with that. So I just want to outline that. But now if you all want to, if there are any questions for Miranda, Janae, or Claire, or Eric, we have, a little, I guess we would say a little less than 20 minutes. So we have time to take some questions.
I think there's a raise hand function in the chat area. That might be the best way for us to
Yes. So if you
get folks' attention.
Yes. So if you raise your hand, I'm scrolling through, I can see.
And there were a couple questions that were asked and answered in the chat area throughout. The most recent question was, can you type the name of the faculty for questions? That's me, Eric Ratner, and Dean Norton, Claire Norton. That's how we're listed in the chat area. But you can just raise your hand and ask your question verbally if you'd like. Or if you have small children in the background like I do and you want to stay muted, you can put it in the chat box.
But I think also that means the faculty at Barnard, and so
yes.
Happy to.
Yeah, I can put it in the chat. Yeah. I'll put their names in the chat. And then let's see, I'm looking to see if anybody has their hand raised. No.
All right, here we go. We got some questions. There's a couple of questions about prerequisites.
Okay.
Yeah, so yes, but thanks. Sorry that I know the audio was particularly spotty, it seems like, in that section. So sorry about that. So yes, we are looking for students to, so you can come from any major, right? So that question was part of it as well, right? You don't have to have a particular background, and you'll find that students come from a wide array of areas of undergraduate study into the MPH, as well as a wide variety of initial career areas, and then find themselves in public health. We are looking for students to have at least one calculus course when you're applying for the program. And as I mentioned, two, if you're interested in biostatistics, the second one can be underway at the time that you're filing your application, but we need to see that you'll be doing both of those things. Partially that's because one of the other perks to applying to a 4+1 type program is we're not asking you to complete any standardized tests, right? So you don't have to do the GRE, which students applying to our program regularly would need to do. But there is, the need for particular skill sets, varies a bit by department. So again, as you can imagine, biostatistics has got a lot of statistics and a lot of data analysis. And students want to have some comfort with quantitative skills in order to participate in that. Other areas are heavier on, social science research, those kinds of things. So, and again, you'll get a basis of that in our curriculum, but we want to see that everyone has kind of the necessary writing skills and the necessary quantitative skills to get through the core curriculum, and also to be a match for the academic department that is of interest to you.
Delara? Delara?
Yes, hi. Hi, my name is Delara. I have a question. I was wondering, and maybe thinking about students who are maybe interested in double majoring, but then also might be interested in this program, and considering like you have to start your graduate school work in your senior year, as in those are like the time when you're doing your senior thesis or seminars. I'm curious to know if you would maybe recommend instead doing like one major and one minor, or in terms of like adjusting your plan, like major plan for then like doing this graduate program. I wonder if you have any advice for that.
Miranda and Janae, you wanna give insight to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a double major, and I don't think Miranda is either, but you're planning for this program. I don't think it matters whether you're a single or a double major. I think what matters is how much work you have left to do by the time you get to your senior year. So I don't know what year you're in, but if you're already interested in the program, it would be a really good idea to maybe sit down with your advisor and figure out a plan for how to complete as much coursework as possible before you enter into this program.
Thank you.
Evangeline?
Yes, hi. I just have the question that like if I want to schedule like a one-on-one session with like one of those advisors, like how am I gonna do it? It's like I can schedule the appointment on Handshake, or I have to email them like
No, you would actually get to email them directly. So they are full faculty at Barnard. So you can, and I can put their email addresses in the chat as well, but you can email them directly.
Okay, sounds perfect. Thank you.
So I'm going to pull up their email addresses and then add it to the chat. And that is my 2-year-old who I've locked out of the room, and now she knows where I am.
And looks like Jalen.
Yes, Jalen.
Hi, I just have a question about kind of like the calculus requirement, because I don't need it for my major, so I didn't plan on taking it, but I guess if I wanted to do that, I have to take it. If I took it like over the summer, would that still count as counting, like being completed for the requirement?
Yes, we don't need you to take it at Barnard. You could take it anywhere. It's just an opportunity for us to ensure that you seem ready, and your Barnard faculty look at it as well.
Thank you.
Hannah?
So I'm thinking about I'm currently on the pre-med track and thinking about medical school, but I'm also interested in this program. Do you know of any students who have done this while also being pre-med and majoring in something other than science?
So lots of students who are MPH students are interested in also pursuing medical degrees at some point in time, and lots of members of our faculty have both MPHs and MDs. The 4+1 is a really new program. So Miranda and Janae and one other student named Emma, who's not here today, are our first 3 students ever to be in the program. And they're just completing their senior year at Barnard at the moment and their first year of the 4+1. So, you know, they can speak for themselves if either of them match that profile, but certainly there's lots of students who were pre-med as undergraduates and then, you know, moved into the MPH program. And again, it's a very common combination of interests. Lots of folks really see the value of having both that clinical perspective as well as the ability to think about, you know, the community supports and the implementation opportunities and the, you know, disease tracking and all of those different things that can really influence positively your ability to think clinically.
I'm
Great,
actually
thank
a pre-med and a history major, so I can maybe answer any questions you have. I can't remember who was talking.
Okay, thank you. That would be great.
Karen?
Hello? Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So I'm looking at the departments. I'm a first year student, and I'm looking at all the different departments right now, and they all seem interesting. So I'm wondering, how do students choose which department they want to take the core curriculum in by the time they get to their senior year?
So the core curriculum is, you know, is representative of all the departments, and every student in our program takes the same core curriculum.
Oh, I see.
The department that you're selecting it's sort of like your, right? It's like, what are you then going to specialize in once you're done with the core curriculum? And I think, so, you know, obviously it was already referenced that, you know, one of our really well-regarded faculty members also teaches a class that is available to you. And there are also some other undergraduate public health concentration coursework that's offered through Columbia College that's open to you. So that's certainly one. Also, you know, try to get a sense of what you might be interested in. Otherwise, I think from my perspective, it's a little bit about like, well, what, you know, where do you feel that you excel in your current coursework? What kinds of things really interest you? You know, taking advantage of the fact that we are close to one another. Obviously, none of us are physically located on campus at the moment, but when we are, we're physically close, right? And while we're all remotely located, we're physically close to everyone in the world. So, so our faculty and our academic directors, who are the folks in each academic department who kind of administer the academic program, are happy to have some conversations, you know, give you a better sense of what each department has to offer. And again, I think it would be useful if our current students want to say how you made those decisions, and even maybe some of what you've heard from your student colleagues at Mailman about how they decided what to do when they were applying to us.
Great, thank you so much.
So Janae, Miranda, do either of you want to add?
I'll go first, yeah. So I spoke a little bit about my interest in adolescent health. So what you can do is you can go into the course directory and look at each of the departments and just look at the title of courses. And very quickly, I just noticed that many of the titles of the courses underneath the population and family health department were right up my alley and what I was interested in studying. So for me, it was pretty easy to notice which one I wanted to do. Of course, there were other ones I was interested in, but that one was the one that interested me the most and kind of what I want to do in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, my situation was very similar to Miranda's. I think it also depends on if you've thought at all about what you want to do career-wise in the future. I know a lot of my friends in the more research-centered departments are in those research-centered departments because they know that's what they want to do
Mhm.
in terms of their career. So I think that's really important. I think it's also important to mention that whatever department you choose doesn't mean you're necessarily restricted to those department-specific classes. Because in our second year, we have a little bit more freedom in terms of which classes we choose to take. And I think we have space in our schedules to take classes in different departments that you normally wouldn't get the chance to.
Mhm. Also, in your senior year, did you have to commute back and forth between the two campuses?
Yes. We had to commute very often in the fall for the core. So depending on what time block your schedule ends up being in, you're gonna commute in the morning or in the afternoon and then stay pretty much for an entire school day and then commute back. So it's
Okay.
twice daily.
Simone?
Yeah, hi. I'm actually an accepted student, so I'll be starting in the fall. But so my questions might be a little more nitty gritty, but I think they could still be applicable. So my first question is, I just wanted to confirm that in the 4+1, 4+1 students don't do a certificate then, correct?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay. And then my second question was just, so the courses that we take at Mailman are fall senior year, that I know you said that the credits count for both, can count both for the towards the Barnard degree and towards the MPH degree. Do those courses factor into your undergraduate GPA / show up on your Barnard transcript, or are they like separate and don't factor into your undergrad GPA?
They do show up on your Barnard transcript, and they do factor in. The way it functions actually is that you're processing for those courses, so you register, through Barnard, and they pop up on your transcript there.
Okay, great, thank you.
Jalen?
Hi, I had another question. Sorry. So I know like they have like different tracks for credits based on how like done you are with your major and like your Barnard requirements. Does it have any effect later on like which, so like if I'm not done at all my senior year when it comes to the fall, I'm taking less credits for the core fall versus if I'm totally done and I'm taking all core fall senior year, does that have any like later repercussions on my like progress at MPH?
That's a great question. So the core courses are only offered in the fall semester, aside from the integration of science and practice and leadership. But the bulk of the courses are offered in the fall semester only. So yes, if you only did 10.5 or 13.5 credits of the core in your first fall semester, the remaining parts of the core would need to be taken when you matriculate at Mailman as a full-time student. And to Janae's points earlier, that would possibly reduce the flexibility that you have in terms of selecting courses beyond requirements. You might be in a much more narrow path based on and it's going to depend on into which department you matriculate and a couple other factors. But one of my prime roles is to kind of, with each individual, kind of plot out what that might look like and come up with plans A through F and to make it work.
Any additional questions for Claire, Eric, Miranda, Janae?
I had a question just kind of going off of what we were previously talking about.
Okay, go ahead, thanks.
So what's, like, how far should we be, like, about done with our major when we're applying and starting at MPH?
So I think, and I mean, Nikki, maybe you want to weigh in, but my sense is that the reason that we have the 3 tracks is because, that there is fairly significant variation there in terms of how much you need to have done and how much you need still to do, right? So, so if you need to still take 6 credits at Barnard in the fall semester, then you can do the 10 credit track with us. I mean, I think there is a point, right? We've had students before who've said like, well, I want to be in 2 majors and this special program at Barnard and do this. Well, then in that case, like you really might prefer to consider the full-time MPH so that you can do all of the things that you want to take advantage of at Barnard and then be able still to come and do an MPH. But
Yeah,
that's,
I think that's totally right. I think, the faculty leads and Claire and Eric and a whole team of individuals from public health worked really hard, especially this last semester, on reflecting from our current students' experience to really dig in and figure out those 3 tracks. So, those 3 tracks are very different, and it's really to meet the varied needs of students and their availability for course requirements. And so, there are some tracks that you need to, it's that first year that, you have to figure out, is this for me? I shouldn't say your first year, that 4th year, you're looking at those tracks to see, which can I fit into. And then, with Dean Norton, this is not the only option. The traditional MPH is still an option. So if there are just so many things that you say, you know what, I want the entire 4 years dedicated to that, then that might be something we can chat about as well. But this is a fabulous opportunity to really, think about how to adjust what's happening at Barnard and make it align with your coursework at MPH.
Thank you.
Any last questions?
I've been putting my contact info in some of the private chats that I've been having with folks, but I'm putting my email address in there right now. So if you have a question you want to ask me specifically, there's my email, and even if you have a quick question, there's my cell. I can respond to text sometimes faster than email.
Wow, that's great, Eric. So if we want to end it with Janae and Miranda, one piece of advice that you would give, this was, and the one thing about, I have to boast about Janae and Miranda, when they started Barnard, this program wasn't created. And so they essentially, figured out that they can do this and prepare their application in a relatively short period of time and have done extremely well. And we're so proud of them and know that they are laying the path for additional students to follow behind them. We're so proud of them. So Janae and Miranda, you've learned so much and you've done so much. Any piece of advice that you would give for students as they're thinking about considering this as an option?
I'll start. I think, both Janae and I spoke about taking a course, a public health course that's offered for undergraduates. So if you do have that availability, you've never taken a public health course, I would highly recommend starting there and taking Social History of American Public Health or one of the other courses, because I think those courses are very kind of introductory level and really give you a little snippet of what the MPH program will be like. And I think if you really like those courses, then that might be a good indicator that the MPH program is right for you.
Yeah, just jumping off of that too, I think the kind of coursework that you do in the MPH program was much different than what you do in undergrad. And I think if you have the opportunity to speak to current students, I think I can speak for Miranda too when I say that both of us are willing to give our emails if anyone's interested, just to get a sense of how the work is different and just so you're better prepared when you go in.
Well, thank you all so much. Thanks to Claire, were you about to say something?
I just was gonna say that, you know, again, we're happy to have we're happy to have individual conversations and follow-ups. So please do take advantage of that so that we can help you think about how this might fit for you individually. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you all. This is recorded. We will put this up on Handshake in the resource section. So it will be available for those if you want to come and take a look. We will do these every semester. So please don't feel like as though if you missed something, you're out of the loop. You will not be out of the loop. And of course, we here at Beyond Barnard are here to support you as you explore this and other options. So if you have questions, if you just wanted a recap on something, you can always feel free to email us at beyondbarnard@barnard.edu. Thanks so much. Have a great afternoon, and thanks again for coming.
Thanks, Nikki, so much, everyone. Take care. It was good
Thank
hearing
you so
from
much.
you all.
Hi,
And
thank you.
thank you, Janae and Miranda. You guys are a really great first group to enter
Yes,
on this.
you are so great.
Yeah.
So proud of you.
All right, everyone, take care.